late, but we're always right on time. What up, colleagues? It's myself, Al Jackson, joined by one beautiful man. It's hard to have him on the screen because he upstages me so much. Michael Dean filling in for Tory, who's the last second scratch from the lineup today. She said she's not feeling well, so I want you guys to please send her well wishes on her Instagram. I am Tory Shulman. She, quite frankly, like Tory's, been dealing with a lot. I think her health, getting COVID really scared the hell out of her. I really, truly believe that. And I think that, she came back, hit the ground running, obviously, with us. And I think she's just exhausted. I did, we did Daytime Talk After Dark with her yesterday, Michael Dean. In full disclosure, I was just like looking at, I was like, she just looks tired. I was like, my friend looks tired. And when you know somebody and you look across them, and I've always said, like, our colleagues, /Night Owl / former DVL viewers, you guys know us better than anything because you guys have been looking at us for years. And like when Sam would be pissed about doing a story or Erica would not be digging something that was said or something that we were forced to do. Same with myself. So it's like, you know us better than we know ourselves. And as somebody that considers himself no closer than a brother to Tory, I was okay with her putting her helmet down for this one, Michael Dean, because she said she wasn't feeling well. So we will try and hold the fort down, as I believe that we can.
Yes, Al, most definitely.
Michael Dean, I'm very excited to announce I sent you some pictures, but we're not ready. We don't have any of the things of our giveaway materials yet, but I went and met with the people from Snarfs today. If you're not in Denver, they are a local sandwich shop chain that is so nicely decided to sponsor us. And so I have so much Snarfs merch in my crib, Michael. It's very weird. It looks like I walked out with 2 full bags, and I was like, I'm the only person leaving here that doesn't have any sandwiches on him. But we have a ton of Snarfs merch, Snarfs swag, so we'll be doing that. And I have most of the colleagues. Oh yes, do we have it?
Is it going to show up? Oh, it didn't show up. Okay, hold on. I will try again. Sorry, guys.
Sometimes we just need to see the logo, Michael Dean. I sometimes I'm like, what show is this? And Michael Dean is like, gotcha. The Snarfs, we have a lot of swag to give away, and I have most of your emails. I've responded to most people that emailed the FFW colleagues at Gmail. I've responded to most of you guys. I was a little offended. You guys all thought that I was Michael Dean. I also respond to emails directly. All right. So yes, me and Michael Dean are there holding it down as well. So, yes, look at that, Michael Dean. I didn't even know you put that in there. That was us. That was me earlier. That's Alex, the one holding the camera. Yes, those are people from Snarf. So you'll be hearing a lot about us, and I will be mailing out just some swag for you guys to wear. And even if you're like, I don't live near Snarfs, you can still wear a t-shirt, represent. And
was that at the new Lowry location, or where was that?
That's at the Rhino location. They have a really cool office. It's just like wide open. It's like one of those old warehouses that now just kind of, it's just an open space. And I was telling all the folks I met there, I was like, what a great environment for people that are creative. How different would the vibe be if it was all cubicles? Remember when they decided to all wall us off so we can't make eye contact with each other?
Yeah. Although I did kind of love those cubicles.
It depends on how you work best. If you're a person that doesn't like distractions and likes to plow through your work, then I can see that. I think that's good for if you have a job where you need to focus because you're dealing with a lot of numbers. If you need to create, if somebody's like, Michael Dean, I need a pitch for this new sandwich, this new Cubano sandwich we have, and I need it by 5 o'clock. I think you might need to get up, walk around, lots of sunlight coming through the windows. Like, it's just mentally. So I think it's all about what you have been tasked to do. So Michael Dean, before we go any further, I want to let people know I will be, I have a show in Loveland, Colorado tonight at the Verboten Brewery. So make sure to come out. Doesn't verboten mean something you shouldn't say?
I think German? So. Like, yeah.
It sounds like it's verboten. And that is a very bad German accent. But guess what? Y'all gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah, forbidden, especially by an authority. Verboten.
Oh, so I feel like I need to bring my edgy material tonight.
Yeah.
All right. I guess we're starting off as we should, Michael Dean. Let's get right into it. I want to talk about, I saw the colleagues were already all over Jimmy's monologue yesterday. He obviously resurfaced after 6 days of being canceled by the government. Everybody says, oh, I'm going to get canceled for this. We're starting to see people get canceled by the government. So, Michael Dean, let's get right into it. By the way, did you watch before we go any further?
Oh yeah.
All right, Michael Dean, you're always on it. That's why I love you. Let's do it. All right, Michael Dean, we're talking Jimmy Kimmel coming back. Some people, obviously, whenever you're giving a monologue or speaking, everybody's going to have different opinions. That's what I've learned about doing stand-up is you get messages from people after the show. I'll never forget, this is random, but it kind of just shows you how everybody interprets things differently. I was doing a show. This is early in my career. This is so early into my career. This is right before Obama got elected. And I don't know if you remember, Michael Dean, George Bush Jr. gave that speech in front of the National Education Center, and he said, "Is our children learning?" It is a famous George Bush quote. He said, "Is our children learning?" He said, "We have to ask ourselves as a country, is our children learning?" And at the time, I was teaching middle school, and I just said, "Yes, they is." And it was like such a silly throwaway joke. I didn't think anything of it. I got an email from this lady, and she was like, "I was enjoying the show until you lost me with your political stuff." And I was like, at the time, I was like a party guy in Miami that was teaching middle. I was like, I don't have one. And I was like, that joke was not only apolitical, I thought it was just if anything, a play on words and like making fun of the president. But some people they hear things differently because their ideology is locked in to a way different wavelength. And I was just like, hey, here's a little fun joke that we can all laugh at before we move on. And this woman heard that joke and was done with your boy. So
it's just kind of to your point. I felt the same way about Jimmy's comments. Like if you read his comments that he made during that everybody was so inflamed that, everyone on the MAGA side trying desperately to peg him as anyone other than his own, was absolutely like, that's not a false statement. People took that to mean that he was inferring that the shooter was MAGA, but his statement was merely about what the right was doing that weekend, which was trying to make him anything other than that, which was exactly what was going on.
I mean, so Michael Dean, there's quotes of Nancy Mace came out and she was as mad as I'd ever seen her. And she goes, the left has to own this. We hadn't even caught him yet. And first of all, for the record, we never did. His dad turned him in. But she goes, the left has to own this. And that was when that reporter, colleagues remember, said, okay, well, does the right have to own the shooting of the Minnesota lawmakers in their home? And she goes, that's not what we're talking about right now. How dare you? And everybody was like, the hypocrisy is enough to stop a rhino in its tracks. But that's exactly what they were doing. And we're not inferring, we're listening to the words that they were using, Michael Dean.
Right. And the weird thing is I think that your perspective, kind of to your point, prevents you from hearing, either what's actually being said or you're taking from it something that isn't actually there. And I think it happens on both sides, but, Jimmy just paid a really steep price for, as he said, they were kind of confusing comments.
Right. And I don't even know. I still don't. Not only were they comments that shouldn't get you canceled, I've said several times this week that if that gets you canceled, then how does saying killing homeless people, how does that not get you canceled immediately? There are two different rule books. And what I said to Sarah last night, my girlfriend, as we watched Jimmy, was, I don't know, this might be controversial, but I still think the left is too contrite. I do. I think Jimmy was very humane in his comments. He immediately posted after the shooting of Charlie Kirk, because you forget, for as much as both sides may be on very opposite sides of an issue or all issues, Jimmy Kimmel has more of a kinship to Charlie Kirk than most people. Most people that even follow Charlie Kirk, because Charlie Kirk to them is somebody they look and listen to. But there is a small group of people that stands up and says their feelings. They are yelled at, they are threatened, they have their lives threatened. I'm sure Charlie Kirk did. Anybody that speaks will have their life threatened at one point or another. I know what happened on Daily Blast Live, especially when you start talking about certain issues, gun control, that kind of stuff. So Jimmy Kimmel said no child should be forced to grow up without a parent. And really express genuine remorse day of, in writing on X, on Twitter, or whatever, however he posted it.
Right.
And it still wasn't good enough. And that's what I kind of keep coming back to, Michael Dean, is it doesn't seem like it's ever good enough for the right. Nobody apologized for the go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, like, even last night, he got really choked up when he said, it's important to me as a human, and you understand it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. And to me, it was as authentic as it came, and it was criticized as being, crocodile tears and completely inauthentic. And, I love Jimmy Kimmel, but I don't think he's that good an actor to stand there and do that and fake it. It did not. Nothing about that seemed fake to me. Did it to you?
That never crossed my mind. There's not a reason for Jimmy Kimmel. He's not going to score any more points clearly with the right by crying. There are some people, and I think it's hard for the people that do not agree with anything on the left, that nothing can be from the heart. They think that everything is just a scheme to, I watched this. It's sad that there was enough footage for a documentary, but there are people, Michael Dean, and none of us know this, and none of the colleagues know this, because you guys are human beings and you have lives, and I hope that you didn't know this, but there's a group of people that travels around to places that there were mass shootings and tries to say that they were false flags. They went to the church in Texas where 26 people, no, that was the Walmart. There was a church in Texas in which I think 13 people, there have been so many deaths. But then they'll go to these places and they'll say, they say this is a bullet hole, but this is actually, drywall that's been punched out with a, these people go and because they're trying to say that every shooting, which including Uvalde, including Sandy Hook, they're trying to say that they were all false flags because the government is trying to take our Second Amendment away. That kind of person is not going to be able to be reasoned with. And when you try and say, no, I'm really sad that a man died and a child lost their kid, that lost their parent, and you say to that person, I'm really sad about that, they don't see you as a person. They see you as an enemy. And so how can your enemy ever feel pity for you? And so the contrition that Jimmy showed was authentic, but weirdly, and I feel bad, I don't feel bad saying this, I think that it continues to make the left look weak, even though, because our humanity, the showing humanity makes you look weak. That's why there's never any contrition like, hey, I disagree with that guy, but I don't think he should be shot. There's never anything. We watched George Floyd be strangled on television. We all saw it with our eyes. And what did they say? He is a drug addict. We all saw. Go ahead,
so
Michael Dean.
I saw all these memes on Facebook with people talking about comparing, Charlie Kirk's murder and, after Kirk's murder, they held a beautiful memorial service. But then after George Floyd was murdered, they burned down the cities. That's the difference between the left and the right. And I was just like, did they miss the point?
That is, it's such a simple way to look at that. A lot of things that you see, Michael Dean, that are memes thrive online because they lack so much context. I saw a meme the other day that said, in in 1930, 40% of black 40% of black people owned a business, and 77% of black households were married. In 2025, 13% of black people own businesses, and a much lower number are married. And it's just like, then it's just like, oh, these two facts that must be true, and maybe on their face are, but there's this entire gap about, because I replied to the person that sent it on our group thread, and I was like, well, did you forget about redlining that happened there, and that things like Tulsa and Rosewood, where there were places that did have black banks and businesses, they literally dropped bombs on Tulsa.
Yeah, they firebombed them.
No, they dropped bombs from planes. Bombs
crop dusters
on. Yes. And so there's a reason that these things, and for the black man not being in the home, well, Reaganomics and the whole war on drugs that threw black men in jail for decades for possessing crack, even though the possession of cocaine, which is the pure substance of that, was a paltry amount of jail time. All these things shape the reality that we're currently in. And when you see memes, they're meant to just look like, well, this is a black and white fact. You can't argue that. And they want to argue just what you're looking at, but not the reason behind it. So I hope, colleagues, when you're sent these kinds of memes, should you choose to answer, which I hope you have better things to do with your time, just understand the purpose of these is to slowly indoctrinate people to look, this is a fact. So I don't know. It's just like if they put up a meme like women have been granted the right to vote since whatever, probably the mid, I don't know when that was, but probably 50s, 60s, 70s, and they'll be like, but we haven't had a female president. Maybe they're not equipped. But you can just look at that and be like, oh, well, that's a fact. We have not had a female president, as long as we don't investigate the why. As soon as we investigate the why, then we realize that meme is ridiculous and that sentiment is ridiculous. But the reason that these are still out there is there are a lot of people that want to simplify the world that they are looking at and say, well, things are the way they are because of natural order, natural selection. Black people just can't contain themselves. That's why we have to put them in cages. Women are just too moody. That's why they can't be president. And we've seen all these things be fictitious and ridiculous, and responding to them is exhausting. But should you choose to respond, just let the person know that you're well aware of what they're doing and it's tired and it's boring, and to please unfollow. All right, Michael Dean. Any last thoughts about Jimmy?
Well, I just want to ask you, what do you think of the Robert De Niro cameo?
Well, Robert De Niro is one of the actors that has been outspoken for a long time against Donald Trump. And it's very difficult on the right because he is such a staple of gangster movies.
Yeah, so right?
It's like, how do I attack this person that I love and probably have a picture of in Goodfellas in my rec room downstairs next to the dartboard? How do I go after this person? And I think that we are starting to see more and more people stand up. We actually saw this, Michael Dean, with the Disney censorship of Jimmy Kimmel, where they were like, hey, we have some power too. I think what the left often forgets is we are not as organized as the right, in terms of, like, they have evangelicals that, I wouldn't even say this is shade, think as a flock and vote as a flock. And so that gives them a lot of power and a lot of leverage. They can be used to swing elections. They can be used as almost like a huge chess piece to wield power for their church and their agenda. And I think we've seen that with Project 2025. I think people on the left is Michael and me, people that don't identify, like, we're not politically active. I was down at Snarf's today. I look forward to football this weekend. I'm going to write some jokes and do a show tonight. We don't have meetings. We don't have as many chances to organize, and it looks like we might have to start doing that, or the privileges that we see, they're openly already trying to take them away. They're trying to control what we watch. they're trying to take away the idea of television not being monopolized by one or two very large conglomerates that have one singular message. I mean, we've seen this playbook in other countries before. I thought it was really crazy, Michael Dean, during Jimmy's speech when he said a talk show host in Germany said that you can come over here. And isn't that, I mean, if somebody had said that to you in 1942, that that an American would need to go to Germany to be able to have their thoughts heard, you would have laughed them out of the room.
You know, I also liked the fact that he gave a shout out to all the people on the right who defended his right for free speech. You know, I thought it was classy. He made fun of Ted Cruz in like a very Jimmy way, but you know, because I think that, you know, either way you look at this, you know, the government coming after people for what they say is a slippery slope. Especially if, you know, Al, as a comedian, how would you feel if like you got turned in for some joke someone took the wrong way, and you know you had people knocking on your door the next morning?
Oh, trust me, I think about it. I've thought about it. You know, there are lists of, there's something called Professor Watch, where these right-wing groups ask college students to turn in and report professors that are not deferential enough to the right, or they feel it's too left-leaning. That's literally having citizens spy on other citizens. And the results of that, as we've seen from a lot of these institutions, isn't to say, F you, we can have whoever we want speaking at the school. A lot of times, the larger institutions, especially if they have something to lose or something looming like a merger, you know, or government funds that they want access to, we've seen them bend the knee immediately. Professors have been fired and not given their due process. I don't even know if we got a chance to talk about it, but you know, the DOJ is kind of pumping the brakes on going after Letitia James and James Comey because they were accused of being weaponized by the DOJ, you know, in Trump's prosecutions. But I think what we're seeing is open weaponization. When you have the head of the FCC on a podcast, on a right-wing podcast, saying that these people need to get their comments in order or it's going to start to get really hard for them. Like, what is that? You're basically saying, if I'm this one man, if I don't like what you have to say, then it'll just go away. Like, that's not how this country was set up. It's not how this country was founded. And it's not the rules that the people from Fox worry about every day. Do you think Laura Ingraham worries about anything she say getting her canceled? Like, this is a company that had to pay what, $787 million because they lied over and over again, and they suffered no consequences. They went right back to doing what they do. I mean, I would think that that kind of lie would have been subject for them having their license pulled by the FCC, but that was never on the table. But Jimmy Kimmel says one thing and he's gone from every market and still has not returned in certain major markets like Seattle.
Yeah.
So, all right, so that's enough Jimmy talk.
Can we talk about something else that happened yesterday?
We have to. Let's do it.
Do you want to play a thing or do you want me to?
Oh, let's just go right in. Which one is it?
I was talking about what happened at the UN.
Let's talk about the UN because let's just get right into that. Trump.
Wait, hold on. Here, you want to see it?
Do you want to play? Yes, let me see it.
Okay, here we go.
And you see the elevator stop.
Go Melania. Just like she's like, I'm gonna walk up there.
Yes, Melania had to. You know what? When I saw that, Michael Dean, it weirdly made me think about there's a comedian named Mitch Hedberg. He passed away some years ago, but he had a joke that I absolutely loved. And he said he was in the mall and he said, you know, there was a broken escalator. And he said, can an escalator really be broken? It just turns into stairs. And he said, you know, the escalator is broken. Try the stairs. Sorry for the convenience. And it was such a great joke. And I thought about that as it pertained to Trump. But of course, it can't just be an escalator broken because the world is constantly coming after this man.
Right, and that's what the White House press secretary said.
Yes, it was said that. Well, that's part of the. It seems like the ideology of this regime is that anything that happens should be seen as a level 10 attack that was planned and executed. And in their minds, and a lot of the people that follow them, there were people at the UN that said, we know exactly which elevator he's going to walk up, and when he does, we're going to stop that elevator. And so that's how it was framed. What they didn't account for, Michael Dean, is that one of Trump's photographers was at the top of the escalator, and he tripped whatever wire it was or whatever sensor it was to stop the elevator. That's why it was working, and then it stopped working. It was almost as if a sensor had been tripped, and not that it was a deep-seated plot by 8 people in a basement to stop an elevator and make him walk up a couple of stairs. Now, he also had a problem, Michael Dean, with the teleprompter. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, and that was where he really dove in his criticism of the UN, saying that, the teleprompter failed, and he's like, all that I've been greeted with at the UN is a broken escalator and now a broken teleprompter. And then he used it as some reference or metaphor for how broken the UN is. They can't get anything right. They can't even have it working this and that. Well, as you mentioned, the escalator, the sensor was tripped at the top of the unit. I mean, they actually went into the machine's central processing unit and got the log that said what tripped the sensor. And the UN also said, by the way, guess whose team was operating the teleprompter when it stopped working?
Let me guess, a secret cabal of people that wanted to embarrass him?
Yeah. I mean, if those people work for him, then maybe. Yeah. But yeah.
It was his team. It was their fault. Your guys messed up the teleprompter. And, the overall arching, we can talk about Trump kind of going at the UN in little, really trying to hit them for things that his team caused. But Michael, I think the overarching thing that we never talk about is he don't want to be there.
No.
Look, when your partner wants you to go to a party that's a work function that he's got to go to, he knows everybody and they're all friends. And you might be texting Tory and I like, oh God, this thing is going for another 2 hours. I wish you guys were here. This would be fun. His friends aren't there. You know who his friends are? His friends are Putin. His friends are dictators. His friends are not invited to the UN. That is why all of a sudden, for the first time in our adult lifetimes, the president is constantly taking shots at the UN, which was supposed to be this kind of global union that ensured that wars do not break out, that ensured that countries that can't protect themselves are protected. And we are seeing that Trump is taking shots because I think he eventually wants to leave the UN. And I think countries are, preparing for that, quite frankly. I think Europe is preparing to defend themselves because they can see Putin coming.
Yeah.
They've upped their production of military by an incredible amount. I think they said they'd up their production of weaponry like 27%. And they did that because we saw it didn't make much news, but Putin flew drones into Polish airspace. We've also seen Poland invaded. What was the last time that we saw that happen? World War II. We've seen this playbook before. It's only this time the Americans are going to be fighting on a side that we never saw ourselves fighting on. And I think that's what all this UN kerfuffle is about. Am I the first black man to successfully say kerfuffle on TV? I think so.
Yeah. So total European EU member state defense spending was 343 billion euros. That was a 19% increase from the year before. And I think it's going to be 31% of the total defense expense. Anyways, it's going way up. To your point,
do you think they're just doing that for fun, Michael?
Yeah, no, they see the writing on the wall. They see, but my problem, that speech by Trump was so embarrassing yesterday. I mean, he literally was telling our allies that their countries were going to hell.
That's a direct quote.
Yeah, like I did. Like I'm not exaggerating. Like that is what I. Could you be any more rude and crass and laughable?
And unhinged. I don't know.
Yes.
You know, he's got a base of people that his approval ratings down in kind of the lower to mid 30s. That's the base. That's the group of people that ain't going nowhere, no matter what. That's the I could shoot somebody on 6th Avenue and nothing. That's those people.
How many
But
of
the
those
rest
people
of
do you
this
think have been to
country
Europe?
embarrassed. What'd you say?
How many of those people do you think have been to Europe?
Zero.
Yeah.
Or Chicago or New York. These are people that experience the world through YouTube fights, drone footage over, you know, Skid Row in LA. And they are the ones that can be told, like, hey, you know, this country's going to hell in a hand. LA's burning. That's why we needed, you know, our soldiers there. What happened to that? Where'd that go? I didn't. My kids live in LA. Didn't hear. They're not burning. It's all this is propaganda for people that are being told things without verifying.
Yeah, like, you know, I live pretty close to Aurora here, and the number of Venezuelan gangs who've controlled my movement in and out of Aurora, or that I've seen operating in Aurora, or is zero.
Yeah, well,
Right?
Michael Dean, I called bullshit on that story, you know, because my girlfriend's mom and her cousin called on three-way because I remember I was getting out of the shower and they were like, "Are you guys okay?" Because they watched the news, and the news is like Venezuelan gangs, and I was like, there are just so many things that are on their face. And colleagues, I want you to be you guys to be able to hopefully see things and just immediately just go run it through your processor and be like, does that make sense? The first thing is, I was like, well, isn't it part of being a Venezuelan gang not doing things where housewives and the locals can see you doing them? I would think if they were doing things that were untoward, there'd be a task force involved, and it wouldn't be mothers and people that lived in this apartment complex calling the police on them. The thing is, criminals are pretty good about keeping their activities on the low. That's kind of part of the whole thing. You don't want to call a lot of attention to yourself. So the fact that my future mother-in-law in Albuquerque, New Mexico, is on the phone asking me about this gang, I don't think she really has her ear to the streets when it comes to gang activity. So I would think either this gang is very bad at keeping their activities on the low and continue to make money, or maybe there are just some stay-at-home moms in this community that are really diligent. I tend to land on the fact that this is a planted story, and immediately was. It was you know, one of the guys that ran the apartment complexes was looking to evict people, and this was an issue with an apartment complex that turned into a national story because they needed a soundbite, and there sounds nothing better to the ears of certain people than Venezuelan gangs, and then that led directly into somebody eating your pets, you know. And even though it was, again, ridiculous on its face, it leans into horrible stereotypes that have been applied to Asian Americans, to any immigrants, that they are, you know, not human. It's continuing the narrative that, like, well, we go out to eat in a civilized manner because we're Americans. These people come over here, and because they're so hard up for a meal, they'll kill your Yorkie and eat it. That's not a thing. And when you
Right.
hear something like that, you should immediately not only automatically know that's not a thing, but also question the source that's even presenting that to you, because they have some responsibility in even saying something so ridiculous. And it was obviously immediately disproven, but the narrative worked because the base believes anything. And you know, I just think there's less and less people. But again, I think it falls into but no one took them to task for that. No one. What was the punishment for all the death threats and bomb threats that Haitian Americans working their ass off in this country and their schools got for no reason. People not being safe in their homes because they were from another country because of a lie. Nobody goes to jail for that. No institution. I would have liked to see any media outlet that aired that without first checking that source to face some kind of penalty, because that's the only way you can get people to do the right thing, Michael. Then you got to hit them in the pocketbook. And I don't care if it was CNN, I don't care who. When you give air to that kind of nonsense, it breathes. If you say I'm not running that story, Michael Dean, you were effing executive producer for years. If I go, Michael Dean, ELC and Marcy, two colleagues, they are planning they're going to rob a bank. Now, I inferred this from some of their comments, but I'm telling you, if you aired that on DBL or you aired that on television, DBL would be and should be in trouble, because I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm making some shit up and then I give it to you, and now you give life to it by putting it on a platform in which people are used to hearing and expecting stories to have been vetted to some extent. And when they see that repeated on television, they're like, well, there must be something to it. So to make it not be on television, you have to start hitting people in the pocketbook. And that's why people say allegedly, even though we know somebody killed somebody, because people's pocketbooks have been hit. That's the only way you can train. That's the only way you can train an animal.
Hey, Al, can we get to something more entertainment related?
I am totally down. Hit me with it.
Let's talk a little bit about Jussie Smollett. Smollett. What was it?
Yes. Yes. Did y'all watch that documentary on Netflix? Michael Dean, did you watch it?
I did not. Tell it. What was it like?
It was interesting. What I took from it was that it was a kind of it wasn't 100% pro Jussie, but it was more underlying, examining the underlying principle of why some people did not immediately discredit what he was saying about the Chicago police. And what it basically ended up being was kind of the same reason that OJ was able to get off. It's because the police in Chicago have such a bad track record with the public, a track record with poor and underserved communities, that the idea of planting evidence, the idea of lying to the media, and like that ground has already been laid. So when somebody like Jussie, who I do believe staged this personally, I do believe he did this. I think he saw that it was a way to get your name out there, to increase your Michael Dean, you know about this, and I'm sure some of the colleagues do. There's something called your Q rating, and your Q rating is like how the public views you in terms of favorability. I'm sure like The Rock has the highest Q rating, and Q rating is basically just like how many people like you as opposed to how many people don't. Basically, like, you know, you can sell tickets, you can sell Toyota Camrys, you just have a face that makes people happy when they see it. And the higher your Q rating, the more stuff you can sell. The higher up on a call sheet you will be for a television show. I don't think Jussie liked his role on Empire. He wanted to have more face time. He wanted to have a bigger role. And the way to do that, to get your name bigger as an actor, is you go, well, how do I endear myself to the public? You endear yourself as a martyr, a proud, openly gay man of color that was attacked by the group that hates, that says that they hate them the most, people that are MAGA, people that are anti people of color and anti LGBTQ plus. And so if I can get both those things and mash them into one sandwich, my starship rocket ship is going straight to the top, baby. But there were some things that didn't make sense. And I'll tell you guys this before we get to the Jussie, the latest news is a lot of great comics come out of Chicago. My homeboy Hannibal Buress, my boy Byron Bowers, so many Kimmel is out of Chicago. There's so many really good comedians, and I know them. And people, not necessarily the guys that I named, but I know a ton of people from Chicago, and they were texting me when we would be on set, Michael Dean, and they were like sending me like the face, because certain things just didn't make sense. When you or I say Chicago, or anybody, any of our colleagues say Chicago, we're talking about Chicago in a very general way. I've been to Chicago a whole bunch of times. I know some of the neighborhoods, but not a lot of them. The people that live there were immediately like, hold on, there was two MAGA guys in a very artsy, almost East Villagey kind of neighborhood that is very pro-gay, very affluent, very pro we are all one, multicultural. These two guys went to that neighborhood on the night that they said was, I think, one of the coldest nights in record in Chicago. I'll repeat that. One of the coldest nights on record in Chicago.
That must have been cold.
It was called something. It was called like the winter vortex or something.
Yeah, polar vortex.
Right. Yes. It was you cannot go outside cold. This is not the place for somebody to be walking to get a sandwich, and this is not the place for two random MAGA guys to be wandering around hats on in the middle of the night looking for any black man to beat up, and they just happen to run into Jussie. I could go through all the things that didn't make sense with the story, but eventually it was proven mostly by the police, and then the public kind of gave it was like, I don't think we did this. And I remember when we were on set when things started to go south, because people were starting to take their likes off of his post, and take their comments off, like where people were like Lee Daniels and people like that had worked with him were been like, we're with you, Justin, we believe you. And it was like delete, because they knew that this was going down. And eventually so did Jussie. He was but then there was some weirdness because it seemed like the DA, well, I think her name was Kim Fox, something like that. She had some kind of relationship with him, which said that people told people that she went easy on him. Long story short, he's still publicly ostracized.
Yeah. Well,
he had that documentary came out, was the first warning shot saying, hey, y'all, I'm trying to come back. And then Michael Dean, he's now doing what? Because I have thoughts on this show.
Yeah, he's doing the show called Special Forces. And, this is a reality television show. All of these personalities or famous people or quasi-famous people train to become, as if they were to become Special Forces. It is a grueling, test of one's resolve mentally and physically. And as part of this, he was interviewed, and he says his decision to take part in the show was really about young people out there, showing them, and I quote, you get knocked down, you get back up. You get knocked down, you get back up. Now, I don't think he meant to make it sound like a Hoobastank song.
Yes.
Was that? Yeah.
I get knocked down, but I get up again. No, they will keep me down. I know that song.
Right, yeah. I don't think he meant to sound like that, but I think it's along those lines.
Well, Michael, then my first thought when you said he's coming back to TV, I've never seen this Special Forces show, but I knew which show he was coming back to, and I'm going to tell you why. Remember the last season, the celebrity that was going through it, I never watched whatever Vanderpump, but wasn't it Tom, whatever, the cheating guy?
Sandoval? Yeah.
Tom Sandoval. And what show did he go on? This one.
Oh, was it?
Yes, he was on Special Forces as well. Colleagues, understand that all of these shows aren't just there for entertainment. They're there for a reason. Dancing with the Stars is meant to relaunch or launch a new star. So Dancing with the Stars, you want an athlete that's getting ready to try and have a media career. You want somebody recent, like a Bachelorette. That's one that was very popular. They're going to try and become a star. Yes, and that's the Tom Sandoval guy.
Yeah, on
with
the show.
Like Special Ops, the celebrities that you get on there, I believe was Terrell Owens on that once. This show like Special Ops only exists, and their agent calls and reaches out for a show like this when they are trying to get back into the good graces of the public. What this show is a public flogging, literally, of that celebrity. They take the celebrity that you hate and they dangle them from a helicopter and they dip them in Arctic water and pull them out, and then a mule kicks them, and then they cry and they say, "I'm sorry, I should have done better. My dad was mean to me and I was addicted to drugs." And then you see this redemption process. And now they are literally cleaned in the eyes of the public. And now they can be now allowed to reintroduce themselves and say, "Hey, I'm Tom Sandoval. Yeah, I was the cheating guy, but you guys dangled me over that volcano with lava in it. So now I would like to be the fourth male lead on your show." That's all this show exists for. And that's why Jussie's on here. Jussie is on here because he is ready for his public flogging and his public redemption.
I think there's a couple shows that do that too. I actually think there's always a casting or two from Dancing with the Stars every season that, cast that one person that's a bit of a, on the outs, give them a chance to, I don't know if that's the Corey Feldman of this season would be that, but there's always someone, that is like there to, reapply their makeup and get back out there in a positive light.
Absolutely, a positive light, and let the public see them as a hard worker. Let the public see them as somebody that's willing to endure pain and to endure a little possible humiliation. Because every week when you say, if you were like, "No, Corey Feldman, he's kind of weird. I already did something weird." Now, when you watch him every week, you see him dancing with his partner, and they get done and they say, "How was it? Me and Michael Dean trained all week. Michael Dean had shin splints, but he worked through it. We came together as a team." You're seeing every week positive things about this person, and you might not even realize it, but you are changing your opinion of this person. That is why these shows exist. They are there for different stars at different parts of their career, beginning, middle, or end.
Yeah. Amy brought up Sean Spicer.
Sean Spicer, after you just lied to the country. Remember, Amy, with the whole biggest inauguration, and just like Sean Spicer needed to fix his image because America saw him as a tiny little liar.
Yeah. Okay, Al, I've got one other thing I want to ask you about. Yesterday was a really big day. It might also be today. They were a little unsure about what day was going to happen, but this is a big trend on TikTok. The Rapture.
Oh.
Did it happen yesterday? No, I mean,
I don't know. I'm so busy. I don't know if I have time to be raptured. Like, what if, like, you just like, what if the Rapture came and you were like, "Dude, I got to pick my kids up and I got groceries being delivered later." What's always, I've always wanted to be a fly on the wall in all of these kind of end of the world, sects of religion that kind of do the thing that you're not supposed to do with religion. You're supposed to talk about the rapture, and you're supposed to talk about end times. It's very intriguing. Everybody wants to be pulled onto that train. There's a weird thing where I think a lot of people like the idea that other people will not, which is gross to me. There's always like a hard number, like 4,400. I'm like, that's not a lot of people. That's like a small liberal arts college. And everybody else, and then everybody else is just gonna burn. Like your friends from your fantasy football league are all gonna burn, and you're cool with that. Anyway, I look at these raptures when they don't happen. That's the day that I would show up at their church. I'd be sitting front row, arms folded, and they'd be like, "Greetings." I'd be like, "Keep it moving. Get to the part we're here for." I don't want to hear anything about how your wife's doing, any kind of funny fake anecdote that all preachers have. That's one thing that preachers and politicians do bother me with, Michael Dean. And it's when they come out and they're like, I was walking to the church and 2 skateboard kids walked up and said, "Is Jesus real?" I'm like, that didn't happen. That's fine, but that's not true. And, I don't want to hear any of that. I just want you to tell us why we're all sitting in this building right now. I've been paying you for years, throwing money in the offering. You've been telling me I'm going to be one of the ones saved. And yet I got in my Hyundai Sonata and drove over here, parallel parked, and now I'm here and I'm not raptured. So I need you to explain how that didn't happen. How did they get out of it? Do they just reset another day like, oh, I forgot to carry the one? It's actually next year on the 25th?
Yeah, I'm just curious, like, when you're a believer in something like this, or even a conspiracy theory, and it comes to that critical juncture where it's time for your beliefs, it either happens or doesn't, then like, what do you do afterwards when it turns out this conspiracy theory or this belief of yours was in fact wrong? Like, how does someone's mind reconcile that? Like,
well, Michael Dean,
like, oh, my bad.
No, well, I'll tell you, the only time, colleagues, that we've seen the rapture or something rapture-like not happen and it destroyed the organization was QAnon. Because remember, QAnon, y'all, had hard dates. They said the day of Biden's inauguration, like something like Trump was going to rise or be dropped down from the heavens and he was going to take over. Something was supposed to happen the day of Biden's election and inauguration. And Biden's inauguration happened and then nothing happened. And people were like, oh, hey, my spouse left me over this QAnon stuff. Oh, I've been disinvited to Thanksgiving for the last 2 years because I've been trying to interpret QAnon drops with these weird opaque statements. And QAnon is when's the last time somebody said something about that? And it's because they did the thing. They set a hard date. The hard date was the inauguration. And when the inauguration didn't happen, they were like, oh, shit. Well, soon, though. And everybody's like, nah. And that was the end of QAnon, really.
Yeah, like I just looked it up. So they believed that January 20th, 2021, that's Joe Biden's inauguration. That would be a staged event after which Trump would execute Democrats. Then in March of 2021, the 4th particularly, Trump would be inaugurated for a second term. And when that didn't happen, they pushed it to August 13th. And then they also believed on November 2nd, 2021, JFK Jr. would rise and reappear in Dallas and announce Trump's reinstatement.
Oh, yeah. And they had the guy that looked like JFK Jr. walking around. Remember, there was like just some random QAnon guy, and they were like, that's him, bro. I swear to God, I saw a picture. Yeah, it's that's what happens. I mean, they really pushed all their chips in, and at least I kind of respect that. They went all in. They were like, look, Trump is coming back. First of all, they're going to kill all the Democrats and then not do anything till March. That's like there's just going to be a month of dead lawmakers. That's a very strange model. But yeah, that didn't happen, and it destroyed QAnon. So, Michael, what else you got for me? Oh, because I do want to get to the Leo thing.
Oh yeah, let's bring up Leo. I thought this was really interesting because of where Leo was talking about this. I mean, this podcast is just so hot right now. But Leo was on the New Heights podcast with the Kelsey brothers. And he apparently said that one of his agents, when he was, I think it was his first agent, he was 12 or 13, said that Leonardo, his name, was too ethnic, and they're never gonna. He said they're never gonna hire you, and gave him a new name, Lenny Williams. Williams apparently is his middle name or something like that.
Lenny Williams.
Lenny Williams. The Oscar goes to Lenny Williams.
Lenny Williams sounds like the guy that your dad is always on the phone with. It's like an old school name, like your dad's talking to his best friend Lenny in the garage. Leave him alone. Lenny, now look, you know me. I have a thing. I love old school names. Lenny Williams is not a name that will resonate with younger generations. It's such and that's the thing when you listen to advice that people's agents gave them. Famously, and I actually met this guy a couple times because he was a comic. The first season of American Idol, there were two hosts. It was Ryan Seacrest, and then what was the other guy's name? I've met him a couple times. He's a sweet guy. He kind of like a non-famous last name, but colleagues, I don't know if y'all remember the first.
Brian Dunkelman.
Yes, Brian Dunkelman. Brian Dunkelman's agent was like, "This show's not going anywhere. You need to jump ship, and you need to find other things. You're the real star here. Let's get away from this American Idol before it goes downhill, and we'll just start counting our money." And famously, that did not work out well. And I met Brian. He's a comic, and he's just a nice guy. And he clearly had done a lot. We talked about it. He'd done a lot of work on himself. And I remember TMZ did a real shitty TMZ thing because there was somebody had taken a picture of him driving Lyft or Uber, and like, oh, look how the mighty have fallen. They did the same with the guy that played Elvin on the Cosby Show. Remember, he was working at Trader Joe's.
Yeah,
and people made fun of him, and then people stood up for him. And I think Tyler Perry gave him a role in a movie.
Yeah.
Look, your career hinges on one or two decisions, and really a lot of it is just dumb luck.
Yeah.
You land an audition you probably shouldn't, and somebody likes you. The person that was supposed to be there gets sick, and you get a chance to step in, and the right person's in the audience. A lot of this stuff is luck. I know, like, we all love our different actors, but a lot of this stuff is dumb luck. And he took a shot because we very well could be sitting here in a different frame of reality and just be saying, wow, Brian Dunkelman, one of the world's biggest celebrities, he got rid of that dumb American Idol show that only did 2 seasons, and he jumped on this show and became the next so-and-so. Nobody knows. If they did, then this wouldn't be guesswork. This would just be literally just applying A to B. But his agent made a huge decision for him, just like this person that tried to tell Leo DiCaprio to go as Lenny, and he didn't know what he was talking about. And I'm glad Leo DiCaprio's dad stepped in there, and I'm sure Leo's on his yacht somewhere saying, "Thanks, Dad. Appreciate you, bro."
I'm curious, do you think I wish I knew if he just like phoned in to the New Heights from his from the ship?
It seems like he's always on a yacht with models. And I swear I'm being honest when I say this, colleagues. That would be my hellscape. I know the girls are beautiful, famous people, champagne. I would be so bored and just like, because every model's got to be, they all have that like pick me look on their face, and you got to have that same conversation. I would be I don't know how he entertains that. I know, look, everybody's got their thing, and being on a yacht with models is, on paper, I get it. But I don't want to be trapped anywhere. I don't want to be trapped on a Disney cruise. I don't want to be trapped on a yacht with models. I want to be able to leave. I think that's what it all comes down to. I don't like feeling enclosed by the ocean. But shout out Leo. He continues to make outstanding movies. At the end of the day, he'll be one of the greatest actors of our time, and probably have some arguments that he is. It depends on how the second half of his career goes, but he can give Tom Hanks a run for his money. So I'm curious. I'm a big fan of him. And Michael Dean, you told me before we got on the air talking about this story that he was a break dancer and he made money busking by breakdancing. And when you said that, it connected with me right now. They said the scene in Wolf of Wall Street where all the guys on the floor of the office, when they make their first big, everybody in the office.
Right. Yeah.
They bring in a bunch of strippers and stuff, and he starts breakdancing, and everybody's like, oh, that scene was totally improvised, but because I'm sure the director didn't know that he could really breakdance. So, Leo DiCaprio still holding it down, still a beautiful man living the dream. And Michael Dean, so are we. And we're living the dream because our colleagues show up for us every day, and y'all know we're going to show up for you. So do me a favor. Obviously, join us over on Patreon. Join us as a free member. It's just easier because we can send a message to everybody. So if you want to perhaps throw a little money at us, keep the lights on, we'd appreciate it. But if you just want to come over and hang, we need you to do that too. So join us on Patreon. Make sure to shout out Tory. Make sure that she's okay. And Michael Dean, as always, you're stepping in admirably and just doing an outstanding job, sir. You're pretty damn good at this, my friend.
I got a really great trainer.
Hey,
Yeah.
I love you. I love the colleagues, and I can't wait to see y'all tomorrow. All right, you guys. See you soon. Bye, colleagues.